Bestia.
Hiya, Manic Bestia here. Since I had so much fun talking about 90s dark fantasy graphics, I thought I'd take a look even further back to the 80s and see what that decade has to offer. It used to be all the rage back in the 2010s. Insert coin. You serious? Is this a subscription service? Alright, fuck this. Let's just watch a movie instead. I don't need a subscription to watch a DVD, do I? So I've recently been on a bit of an 80s dark fantasy binge, watching all sorts like The Dark Crystal, Neverending Story, Labyrinth, Time Bandits, and Return to Oz. Now, obviously I didn't see these during the 80s, but I did grow up with most of them because my parents saw them when they were young. Naturally, they wanted me to enjoy the same things they did, but that didn't turn out so well thanks to internet microcosms splintering digital natives into their own hyper-niche subcultures that nobody else can relate to because you just had to be there. Since these films were all made for the cinema, it looks like I've got to bust out the old widescreen for this one. So you all know Jim Henson, right? He's the funny Muppet man who just wants to make the kids smile. Jim and his friends are the masterminds behind Fraggle Rock, Sesame Street, Limbo, and so many other classic kids shows. Now he's once again teamed up with legendary puppeteer and filmmaker Frank Oz to produce a brand new original story based on a fantasy world of his own creation. I can't wait to see what fun and whimsical adventure he's going to take us on this time. The Dark Crystal follows the story of a young gelfling who goes on a quest to find the J.O. Crystal and reunite the ancient gods so they can become one and bring his girlfriend back to life. But the Skeksis hear of their plan and try to stop the Gelfers by sitting on their ass and drinking people's essence all day. This scene was absolutely notorious. What was he smoking? Alright, I'll start with the positives on this one because I really think there could have been something incredible here if the script had some revisions. It just really feels like after the success of The Muppets, the producers just believed that Jim Henson was a flawless prodigy and let him run away with $15 million without any pushback whatsoever, but I digress. Atmosphere, visuals, music, production design, set design, practical effects, every frame of this film is morbidly beautiful and filled with so much passionate creativity. Almost every set piece in this film is a visual marvel because it's practical. Sure, you could have made all of this animated and then maybe the main characters wouldn't look quite so freaking nasty. But the reason this film remains so breathtaking is because you'll always know that everything you're seeing was really built, designed and puppeteered by an extraordinary team of artists and performers. It's similar to watching a theatre production with the amount of choreography and coordination that must have gone into some of these shots. Take this scene for example, where Jen first enters the astrology tower. Seeing this blew my mind and I was constantly thinking to myself, how did they do it? Is this a miniature? It looks like it's composited in, but it can't be, it's completely seamless. But later we find out that yes, this is real, holy shit, they actually built this contraption to scale. The main villains of the film, the Skets, have the most creepy character design with their horrifically grotesque figures and sunken flesh draped in rags of lavish greed. The ancient castle they reside within is dilapidated from the echoes of a dead world. Those which remain fight for thinly veiled slithers of power over the others, engaging in benign tests of strength to prove which one of them is the least crusty. Also, these sword-esque weapons look amazing and I want one. I want to cut my wedding cake with this sword. Beyond the incredible visuals and art direction though, this film has a very unfortunate script. Again, just because it's a kids' film doesn't mean we need the most one-note characters imaginable, with zero development throughout the film. The fact that in this scene I was genuinely surprised when Jen decided not to fall for the bad guy's obvious trick just goes to show how flat he is. He isn't even one-dimensional at this point, he's like one-dimensional with plot holes. This character writing is like Swiss cheese.
Who is Olga anyway? One of these things?
You fucking Muppet! To say the main characters are aloof is putting it lightly. The two Gelflings both conveniently believe they're the last of their kind, and Jen stumbles across the girl Gelfling in the middle of some random forest and they both learn about each other in a really confusing memory transfer sequence. Things really just sort of happen in this film for no discernible reason, and not in a fun Time Bandits way either. It's comically straightforward at points, and you can't look past it even if you're just watching it as a mood piece, unfortunately. Multiple times the scene is cut short by these giant beetle creatures bursting through the wall like a fucking toon. Is there no security outside this place? Did nobody hear or see these things coming? How can you live in such a dangerous, evil world and be so negligent? The designs of these beetle monsters are incredible, by the way. I mean, I love the fluorescent purple eyes on these things, and the way they scutter around is just so freaky. It's awesome. Hold up, let's get back to the plot for a second. What actually happens in this film? Well, I hope you like prophecies, because oh boy, does the main character have to find the magic artifact to save the world and get the girl. Yeah, it's one of those. Jen, the hero of this story, is sent on a quest by his dying master, who is one of the mystics. At the same time, the Emperor of the Skeksis is dying, and I'm sure you can see where this is going now. 10 mystics, 10 Skeksis, they are the ancient creatures who need to be brought back together and become one so they can bring peace back to the land, and god, this story is dull. I'll spare you the details, but just watch the film if you're curious. I was surprisingly never bored while I was watching it, because random bullshit like this was happening every moment, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Kira, the female gelfling, is bilingual and speaks to animals, so we get one of those awkward, you understand me? moments, and I just want to see them both get crushed under a rock at this point. They're such annoying characters, oh my god. Okay, now I know how it feels watching one of my videos, I'm so sorry. Other than dialogue, I think half the sounds are just various creatures screaming, wailing, or throat singing, and it all culminates in a cacophony that you could easily mistake for the sounds of souls burning in hell if you weren't paying attention. It's such a shame too, because I really like the ancient dying fantasy setting. There's a real sense of bleakness and looming death whenever there's an establishing shot. Again, the immersion is just remarkable up until the point where a character opens its mouth. Boy, if you don't! The way it ends is also rough. Kira gets stabbed, Jen fulfills the prophecy, and Kira gets brought back to life to the surprise of absolutely nobody, unless of course the only film you've seen before this was The Boss Baby. I wish I could appreciate this film more, but it really is ruined by the writing. Jim Henson himself described it as being more of an art piece, so I'm left wishing he pushed in that direction a lot more and just went full on abstract with it, instead of trying to force in a broken, unfinished story.
I like to think of Dark Crystl as sort of a work of art, but it's not a personal work of art. It's not just something I did, but it's something that, Frank and Brian and Gary and all the performers, so hundreds of people created this thing, and as a work, I think it's something we'll always be happy with.
Finally, I want to touch on the music a little bit, because it's gorgeous. For the most part, it uses a classically composed score with large orchestral suites tying everything together and adding to the sense of melancholy, sounding like ancient meditation folk music from an alien world. I think The Dark Crystl is a great example of an over-budgeted title. I appreciate the ambition and all the creepy shit to scare children, of course, but at the end of the day, I can only really describe this film as unfulfilling. Jim Henson, you've gone too far this time. Too far. But if you do want to watch The Dark Crystl, I'd still highly recommend it, especially if you're into practical effects and puppetry. But maybe just have it on in the background with the Chinese dub.